of a first grader in Michigan. One of my best friends, a college roommate of mine, is a first grade teacher in Holland, Michigan. And 3 years ago, on the first day of school, this first grader approaches lunchtime. He puts on his coat, he puts on his backpack, and he's heading out the door. And my friend, his teacher, said to him, "Hey, Billy." Billy's not his real name. It's protected to protect the innocent. Changed to protect the innocent. "Hey, Billy, where are you going?" He said, "I'm going home." He said, "Billy, actually, in kindergarten it's half day. In first day, you got to stay for the whole day." This little kid takes off his backpack, rips off his coat, and said, "Who the hell signed me up for that program?" It's a true story. I have a 6-year-old. I'd be mortified if he did that. But I'm sure many of you felt that. I'm sure many of you felt that same way over the past few years as your classes, your papers, your tests, examinations, group projects, and deadlines all competed with time with your family, friends, and other obligations that you had. But through it all, you did it. Congratulations, you made it. Yeah, give him a round of applause. When I was asked today to speak about why an educated world is a better world, I looked at my own mentors, my children, my associates, the people that I admire the most. And I asked myself, what do I admire the most about those individuals? And I came up with 3 common things. Number 1, they use what they've learned to address social issues. Number 2, they never stop learning. And lastly, they're eager to teach others. And I'll address all 3 of those this morning. First of all, they use what they've learned to address social issues. A few years ago at Christmas, my wife and my 3-year-old at the time were wrapping gifts to put under the tree. My 3-year-old emerges from the pantry with an orange and proceeds to wrap it. Now, if any of you have a 3-year-old, test them in wrapping a round object. It's quite humorous. But my wife looks at my son Ben and said, "Ben, what's the orange for?" And Ben said, "Mommy, this orange is for all the people in the world that don't have enough to eat for this holiday season." Of course, it's a very proud and touching moment for my wife, but I bring this up to show you the intuitive knowledge of a 3-year-old and the new knowledge he had about fruits and vegetables and how important they are to eat, and he used that to address a social issue that had been very important to our family at that time. The reason it was such a hot topic in our house is that 2 weeks later, in mid-January of the next year, my wife and I were leaving to visit a small village in Malawi, Africa, that was living in extreme poverty. If you lived in this remote village, the chances are you had a very hard time growing crops in very rocky soil. You didn't have enough food for your family to eat. If your child got sick, you had a 6 to 8 kilometer walk to the nearest health center, which didn't have running water, to try to save your child. And as you can imagine, many kids didn't make it along the way. You probably didn't live past 40, and you likely viewed yourself as someone who would always be struggling, who would always be poor, and always be hungry. But today, 3 short years later, in this same village, there's a new health center with clean running water. The children participate in a school lunch program with much of the food provided by the local farmers. There's new crop growing techniques, and there's drought-resistant seeds that have been planted, and medicines that are available to the people that live in the village to treat such diseases as malaria, which is the #1 killer of children in sub-Saharan Africa. So how can this be in 3 years? This transformation of lives is taking place because scientists, economists, business executives, doctors, donors, and many others chose to use the knowledge they gained from a lifetime of education in order to help those who needed it the most. Nelson Mandela said it the best. He said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." I couldn't agree more with him. It doesn't have to be in Africa. It can be in your own home, your own town, or across the ocean. Each of you are going to come away with your experiences at University of Phoenix with unique talents, gifts, and knowledge. And the question I ask each and every one of you is, How can you use your education to make the world a better place? My second point this morning is never stop learning. As I prepared to join you today, I researched you. I found that many of you are full-time parents, single parents, war veterans, currently fighting in a war, or employees of companies that are just trying to make education fit into an already busy life. All of you pursued a dream and a goal that some of you thought probably was impossible, and that's earning the degree of your choice. Albert Fert and Peter Grunberg are winners of the 2007 Nobel Prize. Has anyone ever heard of them? Are there any physics professors back here? No. While their names are not widely recognized, they created the technology that allows our iPods to run and allows our computers to store a massive amount of information. It's this very technology that facilitates University of Phoenix's innovative approach to learning. These men were driven to discover this technology because of their curiosity and passion for science, not the thought of winning a Nobel Prize. They wanted to know more, and their determination led to major discoveries which changed the way we live our lives, access information, and pursue our education. It's this determination of those represented here today that will continue to propel American business into the 21st century. Companies have the right and the choice of which employees to hire, and you've literally set yourselves apart by leveraging the latest communication tools to complete your degree. A graduation ceremony like this would not even have been possible 25 years ago. In this global economy, our commitment to a lifetime of learning is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity. I recently read a book by Thomas L. Friedman called Hot, Flat, and Crowded. And in the book, he talks about his parents. He said his parents told him, "Finish your dinner. People in India and China are starving." Thomas Friedman tells his daughters, "Finish your homework. People in India and China are starving for your job." As you shift your focus from academia, you will surely have much to learn through just life experiences. I would encourage each and every one of you to take advantage of opportunities to travel the world, meet people who are not like you, and use your experiences to gain knowledge that can shape your views and perceptions. Many times, seeing things through eyes that aren't like your own can help you dramatically change the way you think, approach problems, and influence others. So never stop learning. But here's some advice. Just because you've learned something doesn't mean you have to share it. I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I was headed off to Cabo in Mexico with our top performers of our company as a reward trip. Just before the trip, I met with a nutritionist. I have a nutritionist. She told me that if you're going to have alcohol, have a light beer. It's 100 calories. Don't have a margarita. It's up to 500 to 550 calories per margarita. So I thought that it was my obligation, my responsibility, to tell everyone that I knew on that trip, specifically our employees who were on the pool. Did you know that margarita has 500 employees? Or it has 500 calories? That was a huge hit at the pool, as you can imagine. But I do respect one of our salespeople out of Dallas who looked at me and said, "Well, I'm going to skip dinner because I'm already about 4,000 calories into the day." And we were about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, by the way. So just because you know something doesn't mean you have to tell it. And I learned an important lesson. Never see a nutritionist before you go to Mexico. I want to talk about the guacamole. My final point today is be eager to teach others. Be eager to share your knowledge. As you grow your network and embark upon your career, don't forget to use your knowledge to help other people succeed. As the president of Pt4.com, which is a mid-sized organization, I have a lot of employees that ask me, tell me they want to get to the next level. And I ask them, "Well, what do you want to do?" And they always have an answer. But when I ask them, "Who's going to replace you when we promote you?" they just give me a blank stare.